Yorkshire Terrier, Zuzu. She supposed it could be worse, a lot worse if she thought about it. He could have left her with nothing, although was that even allowed? They'd been married. Unfortunately, she had no idea of the legal ins and outs of wills and inheritance, and even if she did, she didn't have the resources, financial or emotional, to do anything about it. It was just, she'd expected a bit more. Simon cleared his throat again, and Emma recrossed her legs. Nigel shuffled some papers, and in the ensuing expectant silence, Ava realized they were waiting for her to leave. She wasn't needed here anymore. She certainly wasn't wanted. She'd been given her payoff, and now she was meant to get out. She pictured them going over the rest of the will, dividing up all of David's assets. The sprawling house on the outskirts of Wychwood-on-Lee, the chalet in Switzerland, the timeshare in Majorca, the bank accounts and the ISAs, the stocks and the savings, all the money. She hadn't expected all of it, not by a long shot. Of course she hadn't. But she had expected a little more than what she'd got. All right, a lot more. She'd been his wife, after all. She'd expected David to see her provided for, to let her stay in the house for as long as she wanted, or to leave her with enough money to buy her own modest place. Was that too much to ask? To expect? Apparently, it was. Ava rose from her chair unsteadily, a wave of dizziness crashing over her. Only yesterday she'd been standing in Wychwood-on-Lee's little parish church, shaking the hands of strangers and managing stiff pleasantries after what everyone said was a lovely funeral service. Ava had thought it had been pretty bog standard. The usual hymns, a vicar who had never met David and bumbled through a vague-sounding eulogy, and 100 people in attendance who knew him from business or golf and didn't have all that much to say besides he'd been taken too young. 66 these days, was dying in his prime. "How long can I stay in the house?" Ava asked Simon, giving him as unflinchingly direct of a look as she could. She figured it was better to ask him here, in front of Nigel, rather than when they were alone. Surely in front of his father's solicitor, Simon wouldn't have the balls to boot her to the curb as soon as he could, which was what he and Emma surely wanted to do, with gloating smiles on their faces, no doubt. "How long do you think you need to find alternative accommodation?" Simon asked, a slight curl to his lip. Ava was under no illusions about what Simon and Emma thought about her. Gold Digger had hovered in the air during more than one tense interaction over the last 5 years. Emma had mouthed it at her silently once, while David was looking the other way. Simon probably thought she was going to surf the high street now, looking for a new sugar daddy. That option might have appealed once a long time ago. "A week," she suggested, because she had literally nowhere to go, but she didn't relish the idea of staying in David's house while Simon and Emma hovered, waiting for her to leave, stopping by to make sure she hadn't been light-fingered with their inheritance. "That seems reasonable," Simon answered with a grudging nod. "You can have a week." Nigel made a small noise of protest and then fell silent. He'd always been a pushover. "Thank you," Ava said, channeling a mixture of Scarlett O'Hara and Blanche Dubois in an attempt to be gracious. No one replied, and with nothing left to say or do, she walked out of Nigel's office in Chipping Norton and stood on the slate pavement of the market town's high street, breathing in the warm May air as people ambled by, and she wondered what on earth she was going to do now. Well, first she would go home, for as long as she could call it that. Although, if Ava were honest, she'd never considered Carlton House to be home. It wasn't her style, and David hadn't let her touch so much as a teaspoon. He'd explained that early on, right after their whirlwind wedding, when he'd brought her back there. "This is Simon and Emma's childhood home," he told her gently. "The home their mother decorated, and the best memory they have of her. I'm sorry, but I can't let you change that." Ava had been both chastened and touched by David's thoughtfulness towards his children. Her own father wouldn't have cared less, had barely glanced at her after her mum had scarpered, and she'd thought David's request was reasonable, until she'd realized how utterly and completely he meant it. She'd put a framed photograph from their wedding on Morton Beach with her short veil whipping around her